Yes, we're back again. Kristi and Katie, your crime time friends. Stories, justice, laughs collide. True Crime Squad, come join the ride. Grab the clues, let's take a stand. For victims' voices, hand in hand. True Crime Squad, it's time to shine. Season 6, your turn, your time. True Crime Squad, where justice meets hilarity.
Hey everybody, and welcome to True Crime Squad. This is Katie Weaver. I'm here with my sister, co-host, and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey everybody. Let's all give a big happy birthday to Ms. Katie Weaver. It is her birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm 48 again. So I spent most of last year thinking I was 48 until Kristi finally corrected me like 2 months ago. And
Yeah, because
now
I'm 49, so you couldn't have been 48.
so now I'm turning 48 again.
I mean, I would rather think I was a year older and then get to be younger than the other way around, but you know.
Right? Yeah. At least I didn't think I was 48 and I'm actually 50, you know. But
I mean, that would suck. Yeah.
still, though, what the hell is wrong with me? I don't know.
At this age, does it even matter anymore? Who cares?
That's kind of where I'm at. I had to do the math on my anniversary several times because I wasn't quite sure. But
That's so funny.
in fact, yeah, class of 95. My 30-year class reunion is Saturday. I'm not going, but it is Saturday. 30-year. Yeah.
Yes.
Good lordy.
I didn't go to mine either. I found out about it on the day of.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me a Facebook message and said, "Hey, we got a little class reunion get together." And I said, "Oh, when is it?" "Oh, it's today." It was in like 2 hours.
What?
I was like, "Yeah, no, I wasn't going to go anyway." But no.
We forgot to let people know. Oh,
Yeah.
Kristi's birthday was Sunday. Happy birthday, Kristi.
Happy
Shannon's a
birthday.
1977 baby too. Love it.
Nice.
We did have the
Dawn
best
is
music,
class of
without a doubt.
95.
Yes.
Well, we did, because you know what? Katie and our sister Kara are getting from me and Rhonda for their birthdays. Girls just wanna have fun. We're going to see Cyndi Lauper, who I know we're all from the 1900s, and she's even older than we are.
Right,
We're going
but
to see Cyndi Lauper in Salt Lake
Cyndi Lauper. We're gonna have so much
in
fun.
August.
Right. So we're actually going to Salt Lake in July to see Melissa Etheridge and the Indigo Girls. Indigo Girls for Kara, and Melissa
Mhm.
Etheridge for Rhonda.
Definitely, yes.
And then we'll be back, in August to go to Cyndi Lauper. So yay! And then in September, we're going to Tacoma to pet the capybaras.
The capybaras. And then in October, we're going to Salt Lake to see Sarah Milliken.
That's right. Oh
We've
my
really got a
gosh.
lot coming.
What a spoiled year we're having. Wow.
I know. So much fun.
It's so good. Yeah. Love it.
Ooh,
Oh,
Irene's going to see Lisa this weekend in
awesome.
Arizona. Nice. I sent Katie quite a list of,
Mhm.
old folks bands.
There's a bunch of
How about
90s
this? How about
rockers. Who
this?
do you
How
want to
about
see?
this? And then I saw Cyndi Lauper, and it was like, oh no, that's good. I know that's what she's going to pick.
That's the whole answer. Yeah.
But, Counting Crows, Toto, the Goo Goo Dolls, those all sounded pretty dang fun too.
Mhm. However, two girls who absolutely flatly refuse to do anything in the hot sun are now going to be going to concerts in Salt Lake City in July and August, which is insanity.
Outdoor.
Both outdoor. Yeah.
Be hot as fuck, but we
Mhm.
won't care. We'll be rocking out
Right.
so hard that we won't care.
Just drink a lot of water and shut up. You'll be fine.
Yes. Right. Drink a lot of water and shut up. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. But we have a jam-packed show today because, man, there are just showdowns going on right and left.
There's a lot of weird, crazy,
Yeah.
unsettling shit happening right now.
For sure. So, Kristi, I'm going to let you kick us off with some, Idaho.
Oh, Idaho. Well, you all know how I like to make poachers famous because I hate poachers. So let's make this guy famous. This man is from Rupert, Idaho, which is just an hour and a half or so from us. His name is Carl Stutter. And Carl Stutter is in some big trouble. And actually, honestly, he got off easy on this, but he was just sentenced for some very bad behavior. He actually pleaded guilty to one charge of illegally taking a bull moose. Are you fucking kidding me?
Oh, that's
Moose is
so
a
bad.
single lifetime. You get one moose in your whole life.
Yep.
But you know what this asshole's been doing? He's been hunting with some other poachers from helicopters out in the
Oh.
Twin Falls area on the desert. And I got to tell you, I hate people that do this shit.
Yep.
It is
Disgusting.
hideous. They chase these animals down. There is no sportsmanship to it. Also, yeah, you can't just shoot a bull moose anytime you ever wanted to, you jackass. So let me tell you a little bit more about this.
What a big man. That can't hunt like a regular hunter.
Big tough guy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can't hunt like a normal hunter.
Yeah,
He's
it's
got to
not
be
hunting.
chasing
Agreed.
deer in helicopters. They were only in one situation. He was in a helicopter with some other people. They were only 200 yards off the ground running deer. That is
God.
horrific. And honestly, I just wish they'd crashed.
Right. I mean, can you imagine how horrifying and scary that was for the deer?
Yeah. Horrible.
And
It is
dangerous for
completely
everyone.
illegal
Yeah,
to
completely.
be hunting from helicopters. And there's been a bunch of people in trouble for it. The prosecutor in this case said, as far as the facts of this case go, it does not get more serious for poaching big game animals in the state of Idaho. Right. Here's something else he said that I really appreciated, because this is the attitude that really harms wildlife and does not protect the state of Idaho, and it pisses me off. He says, Carl Stutter is an arrogant man who has stolen from Idaho's precious resources in a very inhumane and undignified way. His blatant disregard and lack of respect for other hunters in Idaho is full-scale cheating. It is. Breaking rules that everyone else has to follow. Gross. His defense attorney wanted him to just get a 5-year hunting ban. That's all that they should do for him. You know,
lifetime
did.
hunting ban.
Yeah, he had his defense attorney had the gall to say, neither have I seen in this case anything in any of the people who know him that would suggest, as the state suggests, that he is greedy and thinks he is above the law.
What?
Are you kidding me? Hunting from helicopters is not greedy and above the law?
Good Lord.
Well, the judge agreed with the prosecutor. So he said, the court is mindful that the sentence set here today will be a sentence that not only has an impact for Stutter, but also has a message for others. Now, he didn't get prison time, which he is very lucky that he did not get prison time.
Easily could have. A lot of people do.
He has a lifetime hunting ban, 5 years of unsupervised probation, 50 hours of community service, and fines and court fees totaling around $180,000.
Wow.
And he's damn lucky. Initially, he was facing 20 years in prison, but because he pled guilty, we're going to let him off. You think he's going to stop doing this shit? He's not.
No.
I don't believe that. Also, Utah, listen up, because yeah, Utah, he's well known for hunting in big canned hunts in Utah. So hopefully Utah bans him too.
Disgusting.
He apologized to the court, and this is what he said. I'm ashamed of how we ended up here. Never my intention. However, I fully accept all responsibility for my actions and accountability around that. Yeah, that sounded like a real apology.
Yeah. No, Carl, you absolutely don't. Torches and
Carl.
pitchforks for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Suck. And you got problems if your life is about hunting animals from helicopters. Like, I wonder how you treat the people in your life, honestly.
Yep.
So gross. Bye, Carl.
I
wish he got prison time,
Carl.
frankly. A lot of the other there have been a bunch of poaching cases that I think are kind of all connected. We talked about some recently where they were hunting mountain lions.
Yeah.
From helicopters, which is absolutely so gross
Mm-hmm.
and hideous to be doing. And you guys just have to understand, Idaho has more public land than private land.
Mm-hmm.
And the wildlife here are very important to the people who live here. Well, to most
Yeah.
of us who live
Yeah.
here. And the rules around hunting are very important in order to protect this state and to protect our wildlife here.
Mm-hmm.
People would hunt everything into extinction if we didn't have
Absolutely.
these rules because there's people
Mm-hmm.
like Carl here. So, anyway, wanted
Also,
to make old Carl
it has
Stutter
become
famous for a
harder,
bad reason.
for sure. It's become harder and harder to draw on hunting tags. Scott's been trying to draw
Yeah.
for 10 years on an elk. That's the last time he
Oh
drew an
my
elk, was 10
gosh.
years
Wow.
ago. And he puts in every single year. And again this year, he and Micah both put in for elk, and neither one of them drew.
That is wild. It didn't used to be like that when we were kids.
No, but it's just gotten harder and harder to draw, and shit like this makes it that much harder. I have no problem with ethical hunting. None. People hunt to feed their families. Good.
Yeah,
Fine.
we know we grew up on that kind of meat,
Oh,
and
yeah.
our families still, our extended families still hunt that way, and I think that's
Hmm.
fine. That's
It,
not why Carl Stutter hunts, though,
no,
guys.
no.
No.
Carl hunts because he wants to kill things.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and there's something really wrong with somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So
Yep.
I'm going to kick the mic back over to you for our main case.
You bet. So some of you may have seen the news that here in Southeast Idaho, we had a Amber Alert yesterday. It came well after the fact, unfortunately, nearly 24
Yeah.
hours after the fact. Well, 18, let's say. But there are two missing children from Southeast Idaho. And unfortunately, it's following a trend of missing children in the FLDS Church. So, what you have to know, and many of you know this about us, but the area that we live in is predominantly Mormon, predominantly mainstream Mormon. However, there are a few large groups of polygamists in this area as well that
Mhm.
follow either very closely or somewhat closely to the FLDS Church.
Right.
So we need to make the distinction first so that you understand the difference between the two. They are not the same church. The FLDS Church is a spin-off, a spin-off from the original LDS Church that happened right around 1890 when the LDS Church decided to give up polygamy. Did they actually give up polygamy?
Decided.
Uh-huh. Not really. We've had polygamy in our family still for a very long time. I think the last of the polygamists in our family probably died off in the 40s-ish, 1940s.
Probably.
But so it was still around, but and it's still around our area in this sense of the
I mean,
FLDS Church.
you can see polygamous families, women, particularly in children, in like grocery stores and things pretty regularly here.
Oh yeah.
And you can tell what they look like because of the way they're dressed. You
Well,
you
yeah,
can
they
tell who they are by
mhm.
the way they're dressed.
They wear the pioneer dresses and their hair and the little swoop thing, and yeah. Yeah. So that's that's what's happening, and that's kind of the basic history. So mainstream Mormons will always tell you that they don't practice polygamy, and as a rule they don't, but I there are some. I've known some actual Mormon families that do practice, but they're kind of on the DL. That's not standard for Mormonism anymore. But in the FLDS religion, it very much is. So I want to tell you a little bit more about the FLDS. So some of their key beliefs and practices, polygamy, of course. This has unfortunately been a lot of the time much older men married to children, little girls. Warren Jeffs, their current leader, who's in prison for sexually exploiting children and sexual abuse of children, uh, when he was arrested, he had 87 wives and
Good
60-ish
God.
children. Yeah. Prophetic leadership, of course. Warren Jeffs is the prophet, and what he says goes. And he is still saying things from prison, and it's very dangerous. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, it is.
The
It's
people are
really
still
scary.
following to the letter of the law. Isolated communities. They live in segregated communities. They are very, very secretive. They keep their children under complete lock and key for the most part. Now, I will say there is a big group of polygamists outside of town that are actually where these kids were that have gone missing from Montague that actually don't follow those traditions that closely, and they do send their kids to school, and a lot of them don't dress in the pioneer clothing. So there is some wiggle room there. I don't want to seem like there's not, because I know there is, because we know them, but
Mm-hmm.
that's we'll get into that. But emphasis on obedience. I mean, they are obedient to the letter of the law, and if you're not, you get tossed. Elizabeth Roundy, who is the mother of these missing kids, was actually shunned from her community because she had a miscarriage, and they
That's
considered her
right. I was trying to
unclean, and
remember
she
why
was
she came
asked
here.
to leave
Yeah.
for a certain time until, she got her shit together. Yeah, because she had a miscarriage.
Oh, seclusion. It's 87 wives, not 87 kids. It's way more than that in kids.
Yeah, with 60 kids, which is weird. I thought it would be a lot more than that.
Oh, I thought it was too.
Well, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I read today is 60. But
I don't
still,
know.
60 kids for one man? Whew.
Insane.
Distinctive dress. We know the women typically wear the long pastel colored prairie dresses, and they are not allowed to cut their hair, and they do their hair in the like big, like updo bun things with the swoopy thing. So, of course, we know that they formed around the early 1800s. We know that they were under the rule of Rulon Jeffs. He was their prophet for a long, long time. You guys, we watched what's it called? Keep Sweet and
Uh
Pray.
huh.
Keep Sweet and
Keep
Pray.
sweet,
If you
pray, and
haven't,
obey.
oh yeah, watch that if you are super interested in the FLDS, and get your punching pillows ready because you'll need them. But that gives you more information. So Rulon Jeffs was Warren Jeffs' father. Warren Jeffs, of course, is the current prophetess, prophet. All right. Authoritarian leadership, we know, whatever they say goes, whether it, complies with the laws of the land. That's another big aside from regular Mormonism, because mainstream Mormonism believes that you should follow the laws of the land. FLDS does not. They do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. Which
So,
has gotten them into some very serious trouble,
yes, yeah.
which is
Uh,
why Warren Jeffs is in prison.
yeah, and a lot of that, of course, is marrying children. I mean, they're marrying off little girls at like 14. They also have a shunning of males at a certain point. Um, they call them the lost boys, and that's the practice of excommunicating teenage boys at some point because the older guys don't want to have to compete with the young guys for wives.
Yeah. There's just always too many boys.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, yeah, it is. It's what makes them very dangerous, agreed, because they don't feel like they have to listen to anybody but their prophet. So,
Yeah.
Warren Jeffs is pretty terrifying because he has said a lot of really scary things. And the reason I'm telling you a little bit more about Warren Jeffs is because he applies to this story of these missing kids quite a bit. So, Warren Jeffs was arrested in 2006 on a whole bunch of charges, but most of them had to do with sexual assault and sexually exploiting children, and he is serving a life sentence. But even from prison, he makes his prophecies, and the church members jump on them and follow them explicitly to some degree. Here's some of his known prophecies. He has predicted over and over the end of the world. In 2011, he issued 8 revelations predicting divine vengeance upon a nation fully ripening in iniquity, says the man in prison. In
For
2012,
sex
he
crimes.
predicted the end of the world by December 23rd. Of course, none of those things happened. Divine judgment and cleansing. He frequently has made prophecies about earthquakes, tidal waves, and devastating storms targeting the United States. These are needed to cleanse the nation, don't you know? In
Yeah.
2012, he
He's wanting
predicted.
this shit to happen.
Mhm. In 2012, he predicted the end of the world would be caused by the eruption of geysers in Yellowstone National Park. I don't know why the eruption of geysers would cause. Okay, whatever, Warren. Whatever. Uh, Jesus Christ's return, he has prophesied many times that Jesus' return is imminent, and that when Jesus gets released, guys, he will release Warren Jeffs from prison. He says it's really super sucks and it's unfair that he's in prison because it's hindering God's plans.
That does sound a tad bit familiar, doesn't it?
Doesn't it, though?
Yeah.
Punishment for denying plural marriage. He has prophesied that there will be dire consequences from God if you refuse to be married in a plural marriage, particularly for women. He has instructed his followers to prepare for the end of times by gathering essentials and moving to designated areas. More themes emerging.
Mm-hmm.
In 2022, he had a revelation that the followers would be translated or celestially resurrected as a part of his prophecies. And a part of that revelation was that the children in the FLDS Church needed to be gathered because there would become a time when they would need to die in order to be reborn as perfect beings.
Holy shit.
So since 2022, there has been an uptick in kidnappings of children that have ties to the FLDS Church, which is terrifying. And yes, this sounds frighteningly like Chad. So I have a little video to share with you. The audio is rough. I apologize. But it is what it is. This is from prison. This is from jail, right after Warren Jeffs was arrested. It is his brother Nephi Jeffs that is taking the notes. The guy in the kind of alongside of him. I can't decide in this video if he's trying to separate himself from being the prophet of the church for the benefit of the authorities, or if he's just having an emotional day. I don't know. Mostly I wanted you to hear his voice and hear how much he sounds like Chad Daybell, because you're going to be shocked. So let's go.
I never was the prophet. And I have been deceived by the powers of evil. And Brother William E. Jessup has been the prophet since Father's passing, since the passing of my father. And I have been the most wicked man in this dispensation, in the eyes of God.
That's all you have to hear. But Chad, right?
Total Chad.
That sounds just like Chad giving Alex that patriarchal blessing. Just like it.
Yeah, it's the apostle voice.
Yeah.
They all use it, you guys.
Oh yeah, I've heard
also,
this in church many times, but
who did he think he was fooling with that bullshit he was saying?
Right.
I'm not the prophet, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Bullshit. He is still running his church with all this crap.
Yeah, I don't think he was not the prophet for very long before, ta-da, he was the prophet again.
Yeah.
So let's move forward now to where we are now. Because what has happened, like I said, is that there has been a gathering of FLDS children. So over the years, for various reasons, women leave. And men. Mostly they get kicked out. They get shunned for whatever reason. But sometimes it's women that have had enough of the abuse and the life that they're living and they get out. There is an entire organization that helps them. They are called Holding Out Help. And they kind of stumbled upon helping people get out of polygamy by accident, but once they helped a family get out, they have just continued to do so. So I'm going to put a link in the chat room to their website in case you're interested in what they do. It's actually really powerful stuff and incredibly necessary. So I wanted to give you a few facts from their website about polygamy. It's estimated that there's 60,000 to 100,000 polygamists in the western United States, Canada, and Mexico, most of them residing in or around Utah. Utah, Arizona, Idaho, and down into Mexico are hotspots for polygamy. Uh, a lot of people that have been in polygamy have faced forms of bondage and trauma. And when they leave or they're kicked out, they have nothing. They have no family. They are in financial ruin. Their spiritual life is in shambles and they need help.
They have no money. They have no access to money.
No access to money.
Like
No.
they have no resources of their own. None of them do.
No, especially the women. And so
a lot of them don't have driver's licenses. They don't even have a birth certificate. Like they don't have anything
to
be able to work.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff that the barriers are huge.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting, Aaron. Aaron said, I suppose Chad Daybell swiped a lot of these FLDS ideas and repackaged them for his Church of the Firstborn. He did. So Chad in the AVOW group that he kept posting in, remember that was the website, Another Voice of Warning, that he was big in. So in that group, there were a lot of originalists who thought that the church needed to go back to their original teachings because they've changed and morphed quite a bit over the years. And he was a part of those originalists. So yes, definitely, that's correct.
The FLDS are actually much closer to original Mormonism, like Joseph Smith level Mormonism, than mainstream Mormonism. We say that they are the spinoff, but really,
right,
mainstream Mormonism is more the spinoff when you look at like the history.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But members of the traditional, or of the Reformed Mormon Church live incredibly different lives than mainstream Mormonism. I mean, there are huge differences
the RLDS,
between them. The RLDS,
which are the Church of Christ now.
Yeah,
very different.
There's actually 3 groups. Yeah, that I
yeah,
can
think and then groups within those groups, because the polygamous groups, there are a bunch of them.
Right.
FLDS is just one.
Right. Some of them are RLDS as well, the Reformed LDS.
Well, they're just like the Kingston clan, the Browns, those
the
guys.
Roundies, yeah.
The Roundies, they're not quite under the FLDS umbrella. They kind of have their own stuff they do.
Yeah. Do you guys remember we covered a case a few years ago where a guy I believe this was in Arizona, got picked up. He was driving a U-Haul down the road, and somebody following that U-Haul could see hands reaching out from under the back gate of the U-Haul.
Yes.
And they called the police. And he had an entire U-Haul full of young girls.
Yeah.
His wives.
Yeah.
And he was arrested and tried and went to prison. No, he was a part of Warren Jeff's group.
Was he part of? Wasn't he trying to assert himself as the prophet though in his group?
He was.
He was trying to pull a Chad Daybell, which
that's true. I think
there's a lot of that. A lot. Sometimes it even results in murder.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So with all of that being said, let's talk about what happened here. So Elizabeth Roundy is a woman who was a part of Warren Jeff's group in Utah. But she's from here. She's from Montague, Idaho. From the polygamists here. And when she was a young woman, she was sent to marry a man she'd never met before, named Nephi Fisher. And they had some children together. And then she had a miscarriage, and she got thrown out. They also threw out her 10-year-old son because he was unclean. Why? I'm guessing he was disabled. but I don't know that for
Exactly.
sure. But
Yeah.
that tracks for what that could have been about. So they're forced to get out, and so she moves to Nebraska for a while. Her cousin helps her to pack up and move to Nebraska. Then she gets word that her father has died back here in Idaho, and she decides she wants to come to the funeral. Now, interestingly, her husband, Nephi Fisher, has also been shunned from the group and is living in Colorado. So she and Nephi decide that it's okay for her to come home and go to the funeral. You got to understand that even though she's living in another state, she's still doing whatever she's told. And she was waiting in Nebraska to get the A-OK to come back because her other kids were all still in Utah. She wasn't even allowed to take her own kids with her.
No.
So she comes back home to Idaho and goes to the funeral. Nephi meets her and goes with her, only allows her to stay for about 3 hours. This is family that she hasn't seen in like 20 years. And she discovers that she has a family here who does love her and want her, which seemed to be maybe something she had gotten kind of afar from. So driving back to Nebraska, she realizes what she really wants to do is just come back to Idaho. And then she realizes what she really super wants to do is get her kids back. That she doesn't want to just leave them with this group anymore. She's their mother. And she wants, her own children. There were 3 of them. So she goes back to Utah, to said town, and she talks to the police because she's like, I want to go get my kids, but I don't know how. And they said, listen, if you try to do that without a court order, they will vanish. We've seen it so many times. And if that happens, the kids will just be in the wind and you'll never know where they went because they have all their little communities about that are very secretive, and this is what they're doing. They steal these kids and they hide them. There was a kid, I don't know if you guys remember, but this happened in Minot, North Dakota back in, oh gosh, 25 now, 2023, 2022, where a little girl went missing from Utah. And as it turned out, it was an uncle that had kidnapped her and was on his way with her to a different FLDS compound. And he got arrested in a hotel in Minot, and she was saved. Was she? Though I don't know where she went from there, so I don't know if saved is fair to say, but because these kids are not safe at all.
No.
So anyway, back to Elizabeth Roundy. So Elizabeth Roundy goes to court and gets a court order, gets her custody papers in line. She's never signed those children, her rights off to her kids to anybody. They're her kids.
Right.
So she goes with a team of police to the house where she knows they're living and has a huge thing with these people. And basically they have to search for the kids by force. They find them hiding. The little boy is hiding in a closet. He is so upset and frightened that he's wet himself. He's in a complete panic because you got to remember these kids were raised to believe that all of these people are evil, that anybody who doesn't follow the rules and stay right with where they're supposed to be are really bad. The police are really bad. Gentiles, anybody on the outside are really bad. So this is terrifying for these kids. And so the girls, they have to absolutely search the house with a fine-tooth comb. They find them hiding in upper kitchen cabinets, huddled up together. I have to drag them out of there and forcibly put these kids in the car. She said the second they were in her car, she just took off like a shot because she was so afraid they were just going to jump right back out. So she drives them back to Idaho, and for the first while, they are trying to run away constantly. Because again, these kids have been programmed a very specific way. So they are trying and trying and trying to get out. Well, unfortunately, a day came where her husband, Nephi Fisher, decides that he's going to try and fight her for custody. So he comes back to Idaho and they go to court and they battle over custody, and she is given full custody of the kids. So no one else is allowed to take these children, right?
Right.
Sure. Well, back in 2023.
Well, anybody who follows the laws of the land, I guess.
Yeah. So back in 2023, her daughter Elentra she's the oldest daughter. She was, I believe, 16 at the time. Alintra takes a car, her mother's car, leaves a note, lets her mom know that she'll make sure she gets her car back, and runs away, takes off. She gets a text or a message somehow from Nephi saying that he has her and basically, see ya. There was a search for Alintra then. Alintra has never been found. And she knows she's being harbored somewhere within the FLDS. Honestly, at this point, Alintra's probably married to an old man and has a couple kids.
She's 18 by now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yep. They probably married her right away, though, when she went. It's just very, very sad. So now we have her, mom now with Elizabeth, now just with her 3 children, one of which isn't really welcome because he's in some way unclean. So the kids have been doing really good. They've been going to public school. They have friends. Like, they seem to be bouncing back. Life seems to be settling down. So on Sunday night, Elizabeth goes to Bible study. And when she gets home, guess who's gone? Yep. The kids. Not the youngest, of course, but these 2. So there was an Amber Alert, of course, but we're talking about Alan Fisher, who's 13, and Rachel Fisher, who is 15. At first, they said they might be traveling in a gray Honda or a Hyundai sedan, and then they came back to later and said, nope, that's not right. The car we thought they might be in has not left Utah, so that can't be correct. But again, she believes that these kids were, and the authorities believe that these kids were kidnapped either by their father or by other members of the FLDS Church. And of course, Elizabeth Roundy is devastated and terrified because, she's never seen Alintra again. Right. And now 2 more of her kids have vanished. She is very frightened.
We know this gathering crap.
Yes. She is very frightened about the prospect of these kids, being some of the ones that needed to be gathered up and, sent back to heaven so they could come back as perfect beings.
That's so terrifying.
Yeah. And of course, all of the other horrors that they could be suffering from.
I mean, the little girl's probably getting married off right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the little boy, I mean, his usefulness will wear out.
Yeah.
And then he'll get booted.
Yeah. Yeah. Did they go to the same temple as Chad and Lori? No. No,
they don't. Our FLDS do not go to any of the same buildings or religious services. They don't cross with mainstream Mormons at all.
No. Mm-mm.
Very separate.
Yeah. So these kids are just gone. Just fucking gone. And where are they? Probably Utah. But then again, the authorities are saying they don't know that they're not still in the area somewhere. They don't know. So in digging around in this case, I discovered something that was just as alarming. A whole bunch of other kids that have been kidnapped in the last while.
God.
All of these kids here. Alintra is one of them. And a whole bunch more. And it's all very similar situations. Mothers that were shunned for whatever reason, whose kids were basically stolen from them, and they have no idea where they are. They have never been found. They're just gone. No, not all in Idaho. I think most of these were actually in Utah. Yeah.
That is just absolutely terrifying.
Yep. Yes, it is. And there's more.
It's surprising
These are
to me
just
how
the
many
ones
of
that
them are
came up for me
boys.
today. I'm amazed that they're boys. And Kristi, you have some experience with some FLDS boys, so I wanted to give you a minute to talk about that.
And this is why this worries me that this has to do with Warren Jeffs' crazy prophecy thing, because normally boys are not prioritized at all, and boys they use them for labor until they get old enough that they could be, making babies with the teenage girls that the old men want to be making babies with, and so they send them away. Mm-hmm. And so homes like this have been busted multiple times where There's one or two adults that are like keeping these boys alive and getting them through school until they turn 18, and then they're kicked out and on their
Right.
own.
Mm-hmm.
But generally these are illegal situations. There's child labor going on. They're not being cared for properly. Maybe they aren't going to school, those kinds of
Mhm.
things. And years ago, I worked in a group foster home.
Medical, they're never getting medical care.
No, not getting
ever.
medical or mental health, or they're not
Mhm.
getting any of their needs met. They're just basically being kept
Yeah.
alive until they turn 18.
Yeah.
Well, a home like that got busted in Salt Lake City, I don't know, 16, 17 years ago now. And there were like 15 boys living in that home in really bad environment and situation. And
Mhm.
the Department of Children and Family Services in Utah took custody of all of these kids, trying to figure out, like, who are their parents, where should they be going. One of the things that you have to know is that polygamy is illegal, so most polygamous wives are not actually legally married to their child's father. They're
Right.
spiritually married, right?
Mhm.
So it gets a little confusing about whose kids are whose, and there's not a lot of good documentation and stuff. And a bunch of group homes in the area, all the way here to us in Idaho Falls,
Yeah.
took on some of these kids to house them and take care of them while Utah was trying to figure out who their parents are.
Mhm.
Because this is abandonment. It's child abandonment. You can't
Right.
just dump your 13, 14, 15-year-old boys with some stranger and say, here, raise him till he's 18 and then he's on his own. That's illegal.
Mhm. Right.
And for very good reason. And so we had 6 of those boys in our care for, some of them just a few days, some of them closer to a couple of weeks, while they were tracking down family members that they were being released back to, which was awful because we knew they were just going to be sent off somewhere again. Like, it wasn't like they were going home to live with their mothers and their siblings or whoever, and they had a father that had, 25 kids or whatever.
Mhm.
So they didn't have good support, but their mothers were being threatened with being charged with abandonment if they did
Mhm.
not take custody of their sons.
Yeah.
And these poor kids, they were so angry. They were frankly rather dangerous. And I don't mean to say that FLDS children are dangerous. They were just so angry and so scared, and we were so foreign to them. Because we were a group foster home. We had lots of other kids from a lot of different kinds of situations, and they were, we were all we weren't a part of their religion, which makes us
Right.
evil. So they would barely speak to us. Some of them like never spoke a word the entire time we had them in the house.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard, and my heart just broke for them because they were abandoned children.
Yeah.
Who had been left to abusive care. They did not want our help. They did not want anything from us. They did not want to go back to their mothers. They thought that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing.
Right.
They wanted us to just send them back where they'd been and leave them alone, because in their minds, this is what they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It was really awful and hard. And every situation that we sent these boys back out into was a bad one, because there just wasn't a good situation to be had. And every one of them had parents who had legal responsibility for them.
Yeah.
And the only records that we had were of the mothers, of course,
Mhm.
because that's how it works with these
Right.
guys.
Yeah.
And so they would go back to their mothers, and I'm sure they were just sent to some other house. This guy got shut down, so somebody else, they sent him somewhere else.
Yeah.
It was really, really sad. You could see how messed up emotionally those boys were, and
You
they
gotta
just
move
didn't
Sanders.
have
There you
a
go.
place. Oh, sorry,
She
she's
was
on
holding
my.
down your mic.
She does that. They didn't have anywhere to be in the world,
No.
and nobody gave a shit about them.
And then they turn 18 and they still don't have any place to be. Imagine
they are on
at
their
18
own,
being dropped out on the street. Figure it out.
being raised that fundamental,
Mm-hmm.
not going to public school, having no skills, having no
Mhm.
money,
No
nothing.
driver's license.
And that's what these homes are for, supposedly, are to help them. But we're not talking about situations where there's monitoring and these kids are protected and their rights are protected and they have medical and school, and that's
No.
none of that. It's all very underground. It was awful, honestly. It was heartbreaking to see these boys, and they would not even they wouldn't look at us. Most of them wouldn't even speak to us because they had been taught that we were evil.
Yep.
And so can you imagine how they felt? You know, like
Right.
we were super high security when we had them, because
Mm-hmm.
if we weren't, they would have just run
Right. Yeah.
and been on the run with nothing
Nothing.
and no one.
It's them against the world. That's how they've been raised. Yeah.
The thing is, Jennifer says I would take these kids in my home in a heartbeat.
Sure.
They wouldn't go.
No.
They wouldn't go. That was the problem. There was no way they were going to be successful in foster homes. They needed to go back to their families because that was the only people they were going to listen to. There was no way in hell you could put them in a regular foster home. They wouldn't. There is no way they'd be able to fit in a situation like that and like go to regular school and stuff.
Yep, for sure. It's very, very sad. It's so tragic.
I'm going to take care of something here.
It's so scary that all of this is happening.
It is.
Yeah. And so what happens now? So, the police are still doing an investigation. They're still trying to figure out where these Fisher kids have gone. But unfortunately, it's very likely that they won't.
It is very likely they won't.
Mm-hmm.
It's very sad and scary. I can't imagine. Right, Jennifer. It's almost like they're robots. It is how these boys seemed. They were so indoctrinated and so unable to connect with anyone outside of their belief system. And they were ultimately, they were absolutely terrified.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. So we'll keep a close eye on this case. I really, really hope for Elizabeth's sake that there is a resolution and she gets her kids back.
I do too.
But it's really scary, really scary. The prospect of her not getting them back, unfortunately, is...
And where they've gone and what's happened to them. At this point, them kidnapping boys has gotten me very worried. Kidnapping girls in their belief system would make a lot more sense.
Right.
But look at how many of those kids are boys.
Yeah. And that's not even including the 2 kids we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very scary, really sad. So really, really hoping that she's okay, that they're both okay, sorry, and that they can find their way back to their mom. Unfortunately, there was a mole somehow, because somebody had those kids convinced that they needed to go. And just like somebody did that with Elintra.
Yeah.
So we will hold space, a lot of space, for this family and for the safety and well-being of their kids. If you want to know more, I'll tell you, if you go to TikTok and just type in FLDS, you'll find a ton of people who have left the FLDS or got kicked out or whatever, shunned. And they don't really call it a shunning. It's not like the Amish. That's just the term I'm using. But I mean, it's essentially the same.
Yeah.
And so at any rate, you can find a lot more there. But that's what I've got. So I'm going to kick it back over to you for crimes against women.
Yes. Well, if you can imagine it, we've got more poisoners.
What?
What the hell? Also, worst poisoners ever. Dumbest poisoners.
You mean these
ever.
2 aren't geniuses?
No. We are not talking, these are a couple of real stable geniuses. We are not talking about criminal masterminds. Fortunately, they have managed to not kill anyone because they are so dumb. And it wasn't for lack of trying. So let's talk about what's going on with these 2. This is happening in Wisconsin. This is Paul Van Duyn Jr. and Andrea Whitaker. They are of Madison, Wisconsin. And they are now arrested for, well, a plot to poison young women in Dane and Rock counties, Wisconsin. This investigation has actually included the Department of Criminal Investigation, Department of Justice, the FBI, like all kinds of stuff. They have been trying to poison women that at one point or another dated Paul Van Duyn. Gee, I wonder why they would want to do that. Andrea Whitaker, you crazy loon. Yeah. They have used cyanide, thallium, hydrogen sulfide, and abrin, which is a plant. I didn't know about it. And these are like holy shit poisons.
Right.
So there are 5 crimes involving 2 victims. So on April 26th, Van Duyn and Whitaker, they broke in to the car of a victim in Rock County, Wisconsin, and filled her gin bottle with cyanide and thallium.
Wow.
Like her water bottle.
Holy shit.
Let me tell you why they are so stupid. Thallium is colorless and tasteless. And if they'd just put that in the water, it would have killed her for sure. They put cyanide in there, however, that tasted terrible. She took 1 drink of it, spit it out, knew something was wrong, had to go immediately to the emergency room. Somebody actually saw Paul Van Duyn break into her car and put the stuff in her water bottle. So there's not a lot of question about who's committing these crimes.
Oh, for God's sake.
Then
Good.
on May 4th...
Good, be stupid. Keep it up.
Yeah. On May 4th, they broke into this same victim's car and it put a plastic tote that they think contained hydrogen sulfide in the cargo area. I mean, if you breathe that in, it's going to kill you.
How did these 2 manage to
however,
not poison themselves?
I know, brainless, like pretty obvious. This victim and her sister were at the movies that day. And when they went out to the car, there was such a horrible and overpowering smell inside the car, they got a ride home from someone else.
Wow.
The sister, who was a minor, did get sick from the fumes of the hydrogen sulfide, though. On May 7th, they placed homemade abrin, which is an extremely toxic plant protein. This one's a new one to me, in the ventilation of the victim's vehicle. Every time it's her car.
What?
This victim, her stepfather found a brown sandy substance in the vehicle on May 8th. He vacuumed it out of the car, but he kept some to have tested because at this point they're like, what the fuck is going on? Why is someone, trying to poison whoever drives this car? This particular victim in Rock County, they had been stalking her for months, trying to kill her. So then the last crime is about, they were breaking into the car of a woman in Dane County, Wisconsin, and filling that person's water bottle with a substance that was likely to be cyanide and thallium. It was tampered with in a parking lot. A Good Samaritan witness told Van Duyn, breaking into the victim's car, she drank from the water bottle, the victim did, and the water tasted awful. They kind of got her thinking like, hey, know anybody that might want to kill you? Just wondering. She actually mentioned Paul Van Duyn specifically.
Wow.
As someone that she had dated briefly about a year before this, and then had said she wasn't interested in him and wondered if it might be him. On May 12th, a doctor called law enforcement. They had a patient at St. Mary's Hospital who had been poisoned. Water from the gin bottle, which was contained toxic levels of cyanide and thallium.
Oh my God.
Now listen to this. Thallium is an odorless, tasteless, and sand-like substance. The only way a human could have this amount of thallium in her system is if they were intentionally consuming it. It was in the water bottle with the cyanide for good measure, I guess. While she was in the hospital, the police had her go through her phone. Tell us, anybody kind of red flaggy to you? So she talked about Paul Van Duyn and said that she was seeing him. He had met this other woman that turned out to be Andrea Whitaker online. This woman, this victim, kind of heard about Andrea Whitaker through him and had said, she's really dangerous and toxic and you should stay away from her. Van Duyn, on the other hand, he did not listen.
Yeah.
early this year, after they had not had anything to do with each other for several months, he texted her and accused her of being evil
Oh.
and told her that Whitaker had killed herself after learning about the previous relationship that Van Dwayne had had with this victim. Turns out that wasn't true.
Not true at all.
She's been
no.
around to help poison these people. This is the craziest story. So he was arrested on June 15th. He was surveilling the victim that lives in Rock County. He had a trail camera pointed at her house. He's already tried to poison her several times.
Mm-hmm.
They also then the next day arrested Andrea Whitaker, caught her, removing evidence from Van Dwayne's house.
Mm-hmm.
Not sketchy at all. So at his property, they found a bunch of stuff. They found rosary pea seeds, which are a natural source of abrin. Who knew? That's a total. I got to learn more about that poison. That's a new one for me.
Mm-hmm.
They found a generator for hydrogen sulfide, a notebook with a chemical formula for abrin, and 50 seeds of castor bean, which is used to produce the poison ricin.
Right.
Remember
Oh my
ricin?
God.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Ricin's terrifying.
Yeah. Also, Andrea Whitaker's phone had searches related to the victims and to the poisons they were using. Because, these two, not smart, fortunately, managed to not even kill anybody. Thank God.
So I didn't have my string and push pins and notebook cards here. So how many people did they try to poison?
2.
2.
But
Okay.
they actually 3 were affected because the younger sister of one of them was affected by the hydrogen sulfide in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So they are charged with 6 felonies each: attempted first-degree intentional homicide, 3 counts; aggravated battery, 1 count; first-degree recklessly endangering safety, 1 count; and stalking resulting in bodily harm, 1 count.
Good Lord. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, let's see, because there's more than 1 county. In
I'm
Dane
frankly
County,
almost more surprised that they didn't kill themselves with this endeavor.
I am too, because they are stupid.
And thank
They
God
are
nobody
very, very
died.
stupid. Yeah. Van Dwayne is also charged with, in Dane County, 2 attempts of first-degree intentional homicide and 1 count of stalking. Whitaker faces 2 counts of attempted first-degree intentional homicide and party to a crime, and 1 count of harboring, aiding a felon. So they're charged with a whole bunch of shit between these 2 counties.
Mm-hmm.
They are being held right now. Their cash bail was set at, his is 10 million and hers is 4 million. So I'm thinking
what makes me think they don't have that?
A lot of things. But holy shit. Like,
insane.
You're going after people you used to date with the current person you're just dating?
Right.
What? This is nuts and scary. These are some really
gosh.
dangerous chemicals, and I agree with you. They definitely are lucky that they're not dead themselves, the stuff that they've been messing around with.
Yeah.
Also, it looks to me like old Paul has had a little prison justice, or maybe he resisted arrest because he's got a black eye in this picture.
Yeah, he does have a black eye.
I'm not mad about it.
Hope it sucks, Paul. Hope it super sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. So
She
we'll be keeping an eye on that.
She has Taylor Shabusiness vibes.
She does have Taylor Shabusiness vibes. I thought that too. She looks like her. Also, just that really defiant, ignorant look on her face. Yeah, she does. So we'll be keeping an eye on these 2 stable geniuses. But holy shit.
Wow. I'm
The
so
thing
glad
is,
their victims are okay.
I don't ever want a poisoner to be successful, but my God, these 2 are dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who would drink that water after it tastes like that? Who's going to stay in their car after it smells like that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, God.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Taylor was and is crazy as hell. Yes, she is, Jennifer. She went straight to prison, which is exactly where she should be.
Yeah.
Although we know she's had some shenanigans recently, too. But Jane says, I'm guessing she beats him.
You're
it
probably
makes you
right
wonder,
about
doesn't
that.
it?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's some weird vibes here that she's the one in charge of this situation. She's the one saying that these women are evil and that they need to kill them and stuff. Like, what? Ugh, scary.
He's just going right along with it. So
Right. And messing with, I mean, ricin? Holy shit.
yeah.
But thallium, oh my God, thallium
also,
is so
I mean,
deadly.
their victims aside, I'm glad no one else was harmed by this in the process of all the stupid stuff they were doing. It's just
Right?
crazy. Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but just the brazenness of it is really terrifying. I hope these two go away forever.
Yeah. Me too.
So that's what I got.
Too. Okay. Well, it's been a show.
Yes, it has.
We're going to be back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock for, I'm still stuck on a Lori Vallow time. Sorry. 6 o'clock for case updates tomorrow night. So 6 o'clock Mountain Daylight time, of course. And then we'll be back at 3 p.m. on Thursday for our last show of the week. And for tonight, we're going to go have dinner and celebrate my birthday. So
yes, we are.
That's what we're doing. So thanks you guys so much for being here. Thanks for being a part of the chat room. We appreciate you. Like, share, follow. That helps us a lot. The super chat is always on. And you can always go over to Buy Me a Coffee and buy us a coffee if you wanted to give us a little tip. You're welcome to. Not required, of course, or expected, but always appreciated. Thank you, Jane, so much. And that's what we've got. So take care. This has been yet another production of the True Crime Squad.
Bye, everybody.
Season 6, we're back again. Kristi and Katie, your crime time friends. Stories, justice, laughs collide. True Crime Squad, come join the ride. Grab the clues, let's take a stand. For victims' voices, hand in hand. True Crime Squad, it's time to shine. Season 6, your turn, your time. True Crime Squad, where justice meets hilarity.